of the two that we talked about getting proposals from? That was LEC.
Sure. We received, we sent out 2 requests, one from one to LEC and one to Horsley and Witten, and both engaged with me over the email, and I thought that I would be receiving 2 quotes at this time, but this morning I heard from Horsley and Witten that they just don't have the bandwidth to take on a new wetland delineation project with the holidays coming up and their current schedule. So we're left with 1 quote from LEC Environmental. So I can bring that up if you want to talk about it, or you want to just continue the summary, Mr. Chair.
No, let's bring it up. I guess the applicant able to, did we send that to the applicant as well so they could see?
The applicant did not receive this at this yet. I was waiting for
Try
2.
to get both. Yeah, I wish we had both. So I have my view just.
I hope everyone can see this. And what we're asking for is a review of that wetland area and just some guidance on the sheet flow into the rain garden as someone not engineering, but more as a consultant would help to guide the Conservation Commission with their past knowledge and experience in these situations. So at the end of the day, I guess this is what everyone wants to look at. The fees.
It's up in the, just previous to that, it was $3,800.
$3,800 for this review.
So I'm gonna, Jack, I know you're here, and Miss Sherlin. So I apologize, you know, we were hoping to get a second quote here. I know Chuck and I had talked about it. We had heard back from Horsley and with some sort of indication that we would be getting something. So I'm disappointed that we found this out today. So we're here. We've, you know, LEC is a known quantity, and did, you know, we went out to these 2 consultants because they've done third-party reviews for us before. I think both were well qualified for this job. I know there's a timing aspect that the applicant is looking for. I guess we want to give you the opportunity to look at this if you have any issues. But you know, I guess my question to you guys is, Jack and Ms. Erland, is, do you want to wait to see if we can get a second? Is, you know, the process of moving forward with the third-party review as it currently stands something that you ultimately just prefer? Because, you know, by the time we get a second, you know, our next meeting isn't until January. So I really wish we had the other ones that we could sit here and compare, but you know, again, Ann Martin is qualified, and you know, she's someone that we've had another project on Main Street that she did third-party review for. She was very helpful. You know, I thought that went very well. So I do want to at least get your take on the fact that we only got one. You know, generally we like to get more than one.
I'll take that first, and then Beth, if you want to add anything, you can. Jack Sullivan. I've worked with LEC before. I find them very professional. I've worked in other municipalities. Rich Kirby's a wetland scientist with that firm. I'd be comfortable with them, and in their proposal, they said they could, when they get a notice to proceed, they'd have the work completed within 3 weeks, which during this time of year is critical, because if we get a lot of snow or the ground freezes or other things happen in January, then we could be out of luck until the spring on this project. So my recommendation is we move forward with LEC. I'll let Beth answer that, but we'd obviously want to get this notice to proceed out ASAP, and then we just have to figure out how Beth needs to coordinate with Chuck to secure this agreement with any sort of money or signatures needed or anything like that.
Beth chimes in, I'll let you know what's needed. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Jack. I want to proceed, and I don't need to get any more quotes.
All right, excellent.
So in the past, we've worked with LEC a couple of times now. They've worked on other projects. As the chair just let everyone know, I need to only receive a check at town hall. They don't require that the account to be set up. So that's all we need. Entire amount, $3,800, made out to the town of Reading. As soon as it gets to town hall, I can let LEC know that they can proceed.
The quickest way to deliver it to town hall. So I can
You can call. There's a number on the back door. You call, get there, and someone comes out and takes the mail. There's a drop-off box at the back parking lot of town hall. And I will be in town between 9:30 and 1 tomorrow. If you, but not all the time at town hall. So I'll receive the check from whoever got it from you if you went to town hall.
I will drop it off tomorrow at 9:30.
Okay. So Chair Flynn, we would need a vote to accept the. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Any comments from the public? Any comments from the commission? I'm sorry, I didn't ask the commission that. All right, do I hear a motion?
I move we accept the proposal from LEC.
Second.
Michael Flynn, in favor?
Nika Scanlon, in favor.
David Pinette, in favor.
Martha Moore, in favor.
Go ahead, John.
John Sullivan, in favor.
I think you're next, Scott. Or did I screw that? Go ahead, Scott.
In favor. Scott Keith.
Okay. And Carl.
Carl Ciccone, in favor.
Great. All right. Great. We can keep this moving. Thank you very much, guys.
And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right. Next item on the agenda is the right-of-way by rail line. Chuck, this was just minor things that they were looking to get in, but did we ever hear back from them on this? I didn't see anything in the packet.
Did not hear back from them. I'm not sure if I'm just looking at Galaxy S10. I'm not sure that's anything for this, but I did not hear any word about this particular item. I could suggest that we were just waiting for an updated plan. And if you want to move this off the agenda, you could make you could make a vote that included issuance once the plan was updated. We would be okay to move forward, and I could process that, get them out to them, and have your signatures on it.
I think that's a good idea. It was pretty minor items that we asked them to supply us afterwards. They've been doing this for years. It's pretty straightforward right away that we've seen before. So I think that makes sense on our end, and that way if they get it in, we can. That's contingent on getting that additional information. Chuck can issue it. Does that make sense to the rest of the commission?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can I get a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to issue a negative RDA, negative determination for the right-of-way for the rail line, Keolis commuter rail. That's RDA 2020-11. Contingent upon Chuck's receipt and distribution of updated plans.
Do I hear a
Do you,
second?
if you want me to send those plans to the commission, Anika?
I'd like to see them.
Okay.
I don't know if others
That's
do,
fine.
but by email.
Second,
Michael Flynn in favor?
Anika Scanlon in favor?
David Panett in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Scott Keith in favor. Carl Sacconi in favor.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving right along. 31 Lilo Lane. This is the continued public hearing for an RDA filed by Derek and Christina Pryor under the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, 131, Section 40, and the Reading Protection Bylaw. The owner is seeking to cut trees and grinding the stumps in place. Additionally, the owner is seeking to install a fence and provide plantings to mitigate the impact of the tree removal. All of the work is within the 100-foot buffer zone, BBW. Application and plans can be viewed on the Conservation Division page under the current project. This is map 56, lots 36, RDA number 2020-12. All right, just to remind everybody where we left this project at the last meeting, I think there was a general consensus that, well, we had asked the applicant to have the tree company provide an evaluation of the trees that were supposed to be taken down. I think, refresh me if I'm wrong, but I think we had talked about last time there was originally 8 trees. There's 1 tree that was taken off the list. And we, since the last meeting, we received a letter from the arborist from, I thought I had it open. There we go. Thank you, Chuck. From Mayor Tree Service. And did we receive an updated plan, or not? Am I just looking? I might have pulled up an old email.
We did not receive, since the
Okay.
new meeting, not an update.
I think I just pulled up an old email. All right, so I think this is in line with what we've looked for in the past associated with pines. I actually got out to the site. I got back into town about a week and a half ago. I didn't look at each tree, but kind of took a drive by, and in line with what everybody was talking about last time. I mean, this is not uncommon for what we see. There's tall pines. There is one maple that's in the front, or not in the front, but kind of to the side. And I mean, we had a lot of this discussion last time. We were looking for the confirmation from the arborist. I guess I don't know that I have any other comments. I'll open it up to the commission if you do. Oh, sorry, Christina, and you guys are on mute. You guys there?
Yep.
Yes, sorry. We were just,
Did I get anything wrong? You can feel free to add something before I open it up to the commission.
nope, that's correct. We just,
Okay.
yeah, we were just talking about that maple, which they confirmed is in bad shape.
Which one was that? Oh, yes, they specifically addressed the maple and I think a split at the top, which is, I think, one of the common things we generally get in these letters as a description. So, any comments from the commission?
Yes.
I gotta say about it is we received the letter that we requested from the arborist, and at this point I would move forward with the job and grant permission to cut the trees.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. It
Go ahead,
looks
Martha.
the trees that are all being removed are more than 25 feet away from the wetland boundary. And it looks like the replacement plantings are all shrubs that are going to be within the 25-foot notice. Is that correct from what I'm looking on the map?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, we chatted about this a little bit last time, I think. We're open to suggestions there. It just seemed like the most logical place to fill that in, given that like most of the area where these trees are coming out of are actually like what used to be grassy areas. Like they've been kind of overtaken by pine needles and things like that. But yeah, that's what we chatted about last time.
yeah, and we were gonna add one tree. We were gonna replace and plant a new maple. But some of the shrubs we were gonna do would be like some blueberry bushes and some things that would be like on the other side of the fence. Just trying to kind of build back some of the natural, you know, the naturally occurring vegetation that you would see in this area that, you know, it really has become, it is not very full back there anymore.
Yeah, I apologize. I think I was at the recreation presentation, so I didn't get to hear a lot of it.
Totally understood.
And I guess my biggest concern, I love that you're, you know, trying to fill in, have more vegetation back there, but I'm a little concerned that basically you're then taking down all the trees, leaves you exposed to a lot of wind and stuff coming in from the open wetlands behind you. And I'm wondering whether it would be good to have maybe more than just one tree back there, maybe a second tree, possibly an evergreen to help some of the wind come in with the time.
Okay. Do you have a suggestion for a kind of tree? You mean just like an I'm not an expert on on this.
So Martha, one thing I would note, because I saw this, you know, that there is still going to be some, you know, it's tough to see in plan, but there were still some trees, you know, so there's a 12-inch pine that is crossed off near that was within the 25 foot that's not being removed any longer. I'm actually seeing that you can see a decent amount of these. There's still the 12-inch hickory. There's a 22-inch oak. I thought there was one.
There's
another one that I felt like I saw.
Pine too.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the big pine that's right on the wetland.
There's some other ones back there
there's some
too.
more that aren't even on here. Like as you get
Yeah.
a wetland, I don't think they were identified on the plan. I would have to look there and count. It's not. There wouldn't be nothing there.
Yeah, okay. I had not really recognized how many full-size trees you're still leaving. But, you know, when I have gone by and sort of looked from the sidewalk down towards your backyard, it seems like there would be a lot of open gaps after you've taken the trees down. And I was thinking something, I don't know, I don't have a wetland species list in front of me, but something like a spruce or something like that, you know, if you don't want to have pines, if you're worried about pines, something shaped more like a Christmas tree.
I would love that. I didn't know if we could do that because I've seen those in our neighborhood and I love those, so I would love to put one in. So we can add that to our plans.
Would Chuck or Mike or Carl have any suggestions of what would be native that would be appropriate?
I rely on Carl here, not go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of like, I guess, obvious. The white pine is always a good kind of wetland tree.
Norway spruce.
Yeah, Norway spruce should be good for wind.
Norway, you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Norway, yeah.
We want to avoid putting in a tree that's going to cause problems for whomever. You know what I mean? We don't want to add something that will grow to be a risk like we've identified. So, but some of these are alternatives that'll be.
I do think the shrubs that you are proposing are great. And I think things like the spice bush and the willow can get eventually be a pretty large shrub, which would be nice. So maybe where there's there 15 or 16 or something. So I know this is just a plan, but it'll leave some nice spacing between them, I think, in the future. Give them a few years and they'll kind of fill in.
Great.
So
Awesome. Okay.
Can I ask a question? Just this is kind of maybe more to Carl. And I'm definitely not, the native tree expert by any means. I did pick up somewhere, and please correct me, this is more an informational question, I guess, that a oak tree provides a tremendous amount of, provides one of the largest number of species it supports per tree.
mhm.
And obviously, oak trees can be almost a nuisance in a lawn for a typical
Yeah.
homeowner. That's acorns, but I guess, I know there's I don't know. I'm just wondering if I do appreciate the consideration that an evergreen is going to provide that wind block year round. I think that's pretty wise. And I don't know, I guess I'm just wondering if there's anything else that might be reasonable to consider just to support the species.
So I do think, Anika, you're correct. I think any larger, like, deciduous canopy tree is going to have more of a habitat. But there's the 15 or so woody shrubs. If they eventually get to that 6-foot diameter by 6 feet, they could provide some pretty good habitat. So it's rare that this is actually like a decent amount of planting, which is nice. So maybe that'll make up for it. I would agree if this was just one tree and it was a spruce or an oak, I'd go with an oak. But maybe since this is kind of a nice little planting, that if they want that evergreen look, maybe one would be okay because of all the other woody shrubs.
Okay. Yep, I understand. And I'm also noting the shrub plant is not a monoculture too. There's some variety. All right, I see. Okay.
And I would add one more thing too, but if I did have to choose between another proposed maple or magnolia, although the magnolia is beautiful, I do think that the maple, for more function, the larger tree, right, for shade and et cetera, I would probably rather see the maple than the magnolia.
Yeah, I think we actually want to do the maple too. So.
And that's a nice size, 3 inches big. That's great. The bigger the better.
I was actually going to ask the commission about that situation, and I felt like the maple would be nice. This is going to be a maple. We have an oak here, hickory right here, pretty sizable oak right in this area, and then these clumps of shrubs. So there's a lot going on. I know that we're losing a lot, but and then there's good replacement value, plus with the changes that were just made.
Part of what we're doing while we're doing this too is kind of removing. There's a lot of like the invasive. I'm not an expert, but the invasive vines that are back there. We'd love to actually we pull them ourselves every once in a while, but we'd love to we're gonna hire somebody to come in and do it.
We want to bring it back. I mean, it just doesn't seem like it's in a very healthy state because of that invasive vine, and it just hasn't, that oak, it is in good shape, but I think, the tree company did say once some of these pines come out, that oak will flourish.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing the extent of the invasives back there. Do you know what
you can't
type of
now?
It's harder in the winter. It's kind of died back, and we tend to pull it in spring, fall. So
we try. But I did have a different another landscape architect person came out, and she noticed it right away, and she said, "Oh, you've got to take this all out. This is really bad." We didn't end up going with her because of her availability.
I do want to comment that, removing invasive species, by hand, like I'm pretty sure we're all in favor of that. It's a long, hard process for some species. It could be year in, year out. But I encourage you to stick with it.
Thanks.
Everybody talk. All right, so a lot of dead silence there. Sorry.
Sorry, I'm on mute. I'm trying to speak and I'm on mute. Sorry.
Want to take over my...
Now I have to start over. I can't remember what I was saying. I think it was, I guess my take at this point would be, I think we've done this in the past where we've allowed some flexibility with these planting plans. Chuck knows the quantities and the general replacement policy. I think if, I'm personally fine with the plan that we have. If if it evolves and you're making changes, I think that the best thing, we really decide to go with that, something more like an evergreen in this area and get rid of these bushes. I think my take would be we could bring it to Chuck and just say, this is what it looks like now. I don't think that's necessarily something that needs to come back to the commission, as long as we're not like taking a net subtract from what's count as quantity for our policy. And so I think there's room for flexibility. My ultimate goal on these is planting correctly. Make the it's easy to put it on a page, but when you get out there and say, oh, the bush doesn't make sense or an evergreen doesn't make sense, I think there's room to make it what you guys want and what fits back there, as long as the quantity stays the same. And I will, as I was just looking at this plan again, I will just reiterate that I think I told Chuck last time, and I think I told you guys, is I've kind of set this as, in my mind, the standard for what we should be getting as a plan. I thought this was very clear, identified, and what was coming out, what the replacement would be. So I think that just helps the situation. So, any other comments from the commission?
I just want to say thank you for clarifying what was there, and I'm happy with the plan as it stands.
Any comments from the public? Hearing none. Just a reminder, if you do have comments, you can always email if you didn't feel like you had a chance to get it in, you can email the Conservation Division through the Reading Town website. Tay, go ahead. Go ahead, Tay. Oop.
I just have a question. I noticed on, I just looked up New England wetland evergreen plants, the New England Wetland Plants Incorporated website, and they do have balsam fir. So I was curious what the commissioners think about balsam fir as an option as an evergreen on the border of a wetland.
Christmas tree.
Yeah.
There's one in my house right now. I mean,
It would be nice to have one in our backyard.
We don't remove the ones that are in a stand with and bottles on it.
yeah, I like those. We're
I didn't know
not
that we could do that.
terribly particular, but
If that's something that I don't know if I saw it on, but I was kind of like not combing through every single name on that list that you guys have. That's like the public approved list.
So I would say we started talking about the magnolia and the maple because of the habitat value. Does that mention a habitat value of?
It just says that it's forested wetlands and wet meadow, facultative.
I've seen nests in that type of tree when they grow in a field. I'm sure Martha has too.
Oh, it does say provides winter cover for birds and small mammals.
I'm just not sure what happens after 15 years, because that's like Christmas tree time.
Yeah, I don't know. I was surprised to see it. So I was just curious.
So, yeah, so I know where it's going to be at about 15 years. I don't know what happens afterwards, but I do know what happens to pine trees afterwards. Well, the bottom branches die off, and you lose all that cover, all of that shade, and it ends up being a different tree altogether. Anything on that, Carl?
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with that exactly.
Yeah, I think around here it's really just a yeah, at the cut your own Christmas tree place. It's up to the commission. I would stick with the maple if that was the one that's going to be replaced. Maybe some.
What about replace a couple of shrubs with balsam fir?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think I still want that maple. I don't want to see that not in the plan, but I would love to have an ad of like this spruce, like an evergreen, and then we'll also do the bushes.
Sure.
I mean, we're gonna fill it in.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah,
And
I think if that's where we end up, I think that seems acceptable.
other houses around the Lila Lane area have some good tall trees that would have been a small spruce or a balsam fir years ago, and now they're substantial and they're still Christmas tree shaped, and they still have good wide branches at the bottom and they're skinny at the top.
Yeah.
So I think that would add.
Great. That sounds
So
good.
if you swapped out the sumac for something, would that be a good swap for balsam fir? Leave the willow, leave the blueberry and spice bush. If you want to look into it, just mark up that plan and send it to me before.
Yeah, I
before
The
you get
plantings won't
going
happen
on-
until springtime at this point anyway.
Right.
So
and we would have like a professional company come in to help us.
Okay.
Can I make a motion to
All right.
approve the cutting and planting plan as amended?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Michael Flynn in favor.
Renika Scanlon in favor.
David Bennett in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Scott Keith in favor.
And it looks like we lost Carl. I think we have enough for our vote.
So Mike, we're gonna
So-
need a couple of things to get on this. So let's throw in a discussion and then throw in an approval and another vote, because I wanted to make sure that we got the changes to the plan as part of the vote. And those changes are an updated plan will be reviewed by the administrator prior to planting. We're going to plant the maple instead of the magnolia. And then the 12-inch pine is not going to be removed.
Right.
And swapping out some of the shrubs, hopefully it's the sumac with the balsam fir, is acceptable to the commission.
And I can mark up those changes and send them to you myself.
Sure. Send them to me at town hall. Chuck.
That makes sense to me. Do I hear a motion as amended, I guess? Okay, we'll do one more vote just to make it clear.
So moved.
I'll second.
Michael Flynn in favor.
Renika Scanlon in favor.
David Bennett in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Scott Keith in favor. Carl Sacconi in favor.
All right. Thank you, Derek and Christina. This was, I think, ultimately very helpful. So,
thank you.
thanks. All right. Moving into old new business. I think what I can do, I see we've got someone here. We might as well, before we get into some of the other items in old new business, we can move him up. Mr. Lau, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hi. Is there a specific project you're here to discuss tonight?
No, I'm just watching because I eventually have some questions about how to address a fence I'd like to put in on my property at Veterans Way.
Okay. Okay.
Do
you have any? Go ahead.
I have Chuck Jerome before about all that stuff, but I'm not on this agenda.
Okay. Is there any specific questions that you have or concerns you have?
Well, I have questions about a fence line that I would like to put in that kind of crosses over a trail easement, and it won't affect any trees. It won't block access to the trail, but it's following a natural grass line on our property, and I'd like to eventually get that approved because it's part of a plan that I worked with Williams and Sparagus to put together, and they said that it should be fine to draw the fence line. I don't know if it's appropriate for me to show my screen of the plan or not.
So not at. Go ahead. So not really at this time, because when we go over projects, we typically we have to have them as a public meeting and have it notified. I think what could be helpful. I mean, it sounds like it's something. You know, if there's a way to even get you on the agenda next time. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say what the select board does with this type of what happens here. The public has a comment. They don't really discuss it. They hear about it, but they'll put it on the next agenda. And if this goes on to the next agenda, I don't know if that's too soon, because I know the engineering division would weigh in on this, putting a fence past or blocking part of the easement, and we would need the plans and have them available, and the commission would make their best decision if they could review the material first. So I don't think getting it in piecemeal, other than giving us a summary of what needs to be done, would work for tonight.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, I think that's a good idea. As Ultimate Lau is, I think would be a good idea is to get you on the next agenda. If this is more a discussion topic, if you haven't been able to complete or you haven't submitted anything, we can still put it under old new business would be my take, Chuck. But we wouldn't make any decisions. I don't think I think that may set up whether that's a site visit or getting more information. But ultimately, the best way to do this is to have everything in hand so that we have time to review it and have the discussions. I mean, a lot of times it goes to the next, that first meeting goes to the next meeting anyway. So, I think it'd be a good idea to get you on the next agenda, and if there's some documents that we can look at, that will be helpful.
Okay, well, the question I have is that this trail easement is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, but it is marked as a future road easement or trail easement to go into Kirchian Woods. So, if it's outside of the 100-foot buffer zone, is that even under the purview of Conservation Commission?
So this is where I want the Conservation Commission to have the information in front of them and not give shoot from the hip with an answer. And I would like to provide them a memo from the engineering department to see how they feel about the easement. It is outside the buffer zone, but there's another aspect to this. I don't think it would be fair to get into it and you wouldn't have both sides of the story. So if you accept that, we can put you on the next agenda. I can prepare slides to show everyone what we're talking about. If you can get me that plan from Williams and Sparagus, I may have a copy, but if you send me another copy and we plan the stuff, you'd be on the agenda, and time to talk to the commission, that would be, that would probably be the best way to take care of this.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the best way. I mean, you know, what I can say is every project and every detail has, you know, it's very difficult to generalize something like that. So I think that it'd be good to just have the whole story with it. So.
Okay, so I'll prepare the plans again and send them to Chuck by email. Is that fine?
Yeah, and then just request to be on the next meeting, which is going to be January 13th.
Okay, so not December 23rd, but January 3rd.
January 13th.
January 13th. Okay,
Right now.
All right.
great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right. Is there anybody else in the public that is looking to provide comment on a project tonight, or we can move that project up? If you are, just raise your hand. I think that the only thing I see, Chuck, is that Galaxy S10. I don't know if that's looks like that was
They went away.
off now. Yep. I scared
There
him
you go,
away.
Mike. You scared him off.
All right. So, old new business. Chuck, I don't think are any of these the ones on the old new business? Do we have anything to talk about on this, whether Arcadia, Small Lane, or Pearl? I don't think these are still just kind of open, right?
So, and as part of the old new business, let me look at that. I can tell you that Small Lane has requested an abutters notification. So that project is probably going to come into the commission very soon. And that's a 2-lot subdivision in back of that Dement property and Hughes property. So that should be in pretty soon. And I think that's all there is to talk about here, because the rest are just on hold. Okay. Item number 7, and that's also a vote. So the discussion items are mostly all votes, but I think that's one we should get to at some point.
Why don't we get to number 7 now? So this is the approval for a bond release for 3 Carriage Lane and 62 Gray Coach Lane. These are the ones that there was some tree removal. You know, they were in here a couple meetings ago, and some planting, and then part of this was invasive management, I think, right? And
yes,
they're asking for the bond to be released. I think it's been a decent amount of time, Chuck, correct? Yeah.
It's been a decent amount of time, and what we found out there was some invasives. What was it? I'll think of it in a minute. But anyways, they kept on taking care of that, and it would come back each time. And the commission at that meeting just said that the 3-year effort that they put into it was enough. Typically, the bond is for things like that, where we would use the bond to continue if the homeowners didn't want to, I don't know, fulfill their obligation. But the commission felt like, you know, they met the criteria and they issued the certificates of compliance. And the second step is to release the bond at this point. I guess understanding that the invasives are still there.
Chuck, any reason why we wouldn't recommend releasing the bond at this point?
No, I think that you talked pretty clearly to the homeowners when they were here, and you made no indications that you were concerned about how the property was. I don't think it's, you know, it's something that needs to be withheld. I think.
Martha, I'm sorry.
I think the invasives were buckthorn they were trying to keep pulled.
Thank you.
That's right.
And I think my sense of that meeting was that we felt like they had done it for 3 years and they had met their obligations. So.
Yeah, that's what I recall as well.
They showed it by having, you know, receipts from various, you know, landscapers and whatnot have gone in there and pulled it, and they used, you know, different methods to do that, and it's just kept coming in from behind. Like they had their own property, but behind this area, it was still coming in. And then, you know, and again, that's the problem with taking down trees and taking down what's natural, because then the invasives come in, and this is what's going to happen. They'll really be fighting this, the new homeowners, for, you know, the rest of the time that they're at these properties. So.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve the bond release for 3 Carriage and 62 Gray Coach Lane.
Second,
Michael Flynn in favor?
Nika Scanlon in favor.
David Burnett in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Scott Keith in favor. Carl Sacconi in favor.
All right, great. All right, the next item, item 5 on the discussion. This is vote for offset for the conservation fund. So for those that aren't familiar, the way the conservation fees work is any state fees go to the Chuck, and correct me if I screw this up, but the state fees go to a conservation fund. Any of the Reading fees go to the general fund. And you know, each year, what we do is we look at the state fees that we've collected, and we offset a portion of Chuck's salary. Probably the best fund we spend money in. And so this December, we're at that time of year again, and so we're looking to offset the quantity this year. It's generally around 2,500. The quantity this year is 2,100 that we're looking to take from the state fund and to offset. So I'll open it up if anybody has questions, but ultimately what we'll be looking for is a motion to support the transfer of the state wetland fees into the revolving fund for the year 2022.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Michael Flynn in favor?
Nika Scanlon in favor.
David Burnett in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Scott Keith in favor. Carl Sacconi in favor.
Moving right along. Approve the 2021 conservation calendar. Chuck, excellent, you're way ahead of me. All right, so Chuck sent out the 2021 calendar. This is gonna start with our, starting with our next meeting, which would be January 13th. We did have a meeting on the last year's calendar for December 23rd. We are not gonna hold it. I think my recollection was last year, keeping it on the schedule in case we needed it. But ultimately, we don't like to have meetings that close to the holidays, because not just, you know, it's generally just a quiet time of year, but it's also, you know, difficult. You know, it's not just the applicants that we have to think about, it's the public getting to those meetings. And when people are traveling away, you're just busy that time of year, it's a burden for the public to get and be able to comment on a project if they're looking to do that. So that's why we've generally had one meeting in November and one meeting in December. So our next meeting won't be till January 13th, provided we approve this schedule. My take would be, unless anybody's found any, I think this year we missed and we put a meeting on Veterans Day, which I don't know if November 10th is that as well, but
It's
okay.
Yeah.
So unless anybody has found any issues or comments, my suggestion would be we do the same thing we did last year. Is we keep the December meeting up there, you know, that we approve the schedule. We keep the December meeting up there if we need it, but likely we wouldn't hold it.
On the agenda, on the schedule.
We had it last year, Chuck. We had December 23rd. I mean, it says on the website that, and that's why somebody asked tonight, that our next meeting would be the 23rd.
Okay, well, that's fine. I need to put this on the, obviously on the website and get it to the clerk. So as soon as it's approved, if you think it's correct, and that's great. That's what we need.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
One of these days, and maybe next December, it's going to be a good time for this. One of these days, conservation should have its, holiday or executive meeting to just talk about conservation, not about any particular projects or anything like that, but just, I don't know. I mean,
what a Christmas treat that would be. No.
And stuff like that. Most of the time we are here getting all this work done. It's been a lot of talk, a lot of these years that, we'll get together and maybe, just talk about what conservation wants to do, a strategic planning meeting. I don't know, summit, I don't know, we'll call it the Great Matera Cabin Brew Fest. I don't know, I don't think December 22nd is a good date because it is too close to the holidays. But if we're going to opt out of one meeting, something like that. A professional development meeting at Matera Cabin.
Yeah, and MACC recommends this highly to do that and to set some goals for the year and discuss things like updates to the regulations and whatnot. Obviously, we're talking about next year, and hopefully, COVID is behind us. But that would definitely have to happen.
Yeah, I think as long as I've been on the commission, we've talked about it. I don't think we've ever successfully performed it. I do think, Nico, the one thing I would say is, there's nothing preventing us from adding a meeting like that, right? It just has to, if we are getting a quorum together, it just has to be posted ahead of time, but it doesn't have to be part of the schedule. But I do think it's a good idea. I'm sure we've said that in years past. But I agree with Chuck. My goal would be that this is obviously I don't say post-COVID world, but a world where we are in some manner able to get together in public again. It's just things like that are better suited when people are meeting in person. But if that's not, we get to a point and that can't happen, I think we find other ways. I don't know that we necessarily need that on this calendar, though. Do you?
No, but as Chuck said, if we are going to meet, we do have to post it. And if we are going to meet, to discuss things, officially it would have to be open to the public, I believe, and we'd have to have minutes. And of course, even if we're just talking about conservation matters, not specific projects, but, just get a sense of what people think, just a little summit. And I don't know if there's a time of the year that we might be a little bit light. I mean, I'm almost imagining like the end of January, but I don't know. Chuck, what's your sense about that?
So, I have to tell you, when I worked in Boxford, as soon as July came, there was nothing on it.
Right. It's the new fiscal year. Is that why, or?
Well, this was in Boxford, and they had a blackout period on the wetland review, and we don't do that here. And it seemed like everyone kind of timed projects to, be the last projects would come in like July 1st, and then I can tell you definitely for the last 3 or 4 years that Reading is very popular, and we haven't had a break. And there that I think on any schedule that we had where we would say, well, there's really nothing to talk about. This might be the lightest meeting and that we've had, and it still was needed and, had to be prepared. But I think to add an additional meeting, I would say in the summer or after, I don't know, June, something like that would be best. And then just have it happen, because we're probably not going to get that break that you're thinking.
I think we have to build it if we really want to give a
special meeting at Matera Cabin in something around May, we could maybe make it also a invasive plant pulling and garlic mustard is in bloom in May, and go out and pull some garlic mustard and also have a visit. It would have to be daylight.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know in person. We'd have to. I wouldn't put it on the schedule. It's just something to keep in mind, because May is too soon for a meeting. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I mean, if you wanted to do a Zoom meeting in May to talk about the items, have an additional agenda item or time frame to do this, that would be fine. I think that we could guarantee we'd be able to do if we could get enough people to show, to have a Zoom meeting.
Is there a way to set an alarm for us in April and revisit this and say, either it looks like we should be able to meet in person coming around June, July, or we're still very far away from having that, and let's set up a Zoom and set up some sort of a Zoom summit or executive session to do that. I think maybe that's the best way. I mean, it's hard to decide that now. I think my preference would be, we've talked about it, and I'd like to have it. My preference would be to have an in-person meeting, and we can be flexible around the times, because it's not our normal meeting. So, does that make sense?
All right, so I'll
calendar to remind us to actually think about it in April.
Put it on next year's April agenda, April 14th. I think we should. Yeah, April 14th. It should be one you guys think about. It's the next day is tax day. Oh my gosh. All right, let's move on. I guess if this is, can we get?
Do we need to vote for this, Chuck? Yeah. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to accept the calendar as written.
A second.
Michael Flynn in favor?
Nika Scanlon in favor.
David Panett in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Scott Keith in favor.
Carl Saccone in favor.
Excellent. All right, let's keep moving. Administrator's report. My favorite, 70 Mill Street, tree cleanup. Chuck,
Yeah,
you wanna?
Sure. So we're going to do this in 2 parts. I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in the future, and Mike is going to talk about 75 Mill Street. So I will be out there tomorrow with Mike Flynn. It sounded like Mike was inviting me to go over.
Mike Flynn?
Oh, sorry, Mike Hanford. So the town tree board is Mike Hanford, and he sent me an email today after many emails. We're trying to just understand what to do about. I don't think the Conservation Commission has any reservations about how to clean this up. But of course, we don't have manpower and we don't have machinery, and the only thing we can do is make suggestions. And it's really DPW that has to do the work. So we got, after having a meeting, we were asked, or Mike Hannaford was asked to review his document of additional work needed, and he sent that to me. Again, we asked for some material to come off the stone wall if it was feasible, and there was some brush cleanup that needs to be done. And Mike responded today and said, well, why don't we just meet out there and we'll see, what you need. And so that'll happen tomorrow, and hopefully that'll be the end of 75 Mill Street as far as that one homeowner is concerned. And so that's my report, and that's what the town is doing. And Mike, if you want to do some background or however you want to take it from there, it's fine.
So to just give everyone a reminder, so 75 Mill Street was something that came up in May, a tree that had fallen over from town conservation land and onto a neighbor's property. We had coordinated what the right process and the typical process was to, that's done on trees that fall over onto private property, somebody else's property, and what our general normal procedures are, which is what the town typically does is they cut it back to the property line, clean up what's not on town property, and kind of move on from there. In, I think it's October now, the DPW sent somebody out to do the cleanup. Basically the resident wasn't happy about how it looked. We had gone out there and looked at it and felt like a lot of the cleanup that we talked about still wasn't done. There was some, everybody was kind of unsure where the property line was. Ultimately, so out at that meeting was Chuck, Anika, Martha, Mike Hannaford, and Chris Cole from DPW. To put it bluntly, there was a large disagreement between DPW and Conservation Commission. I think Anika had sent you guys the email that she sent to the select board about what had happened. So this was kind of additive to the first time this happened back in May. This was right around the same time of Charles Street Cemetery, when we had a couple meetings at Charles Street to go over communication, just general communication with DPW and working with Mike Hannaford and how that process should go. This is all part of this, the other Main Street project, and 75 Mill Street and Charles Street were all part of what prompted this tree policy that we had been crafting over the summer, that is going to approval. We felt like, that this, just in general, I mean, I'll just give you my take is, when we're going to a site visit with us and DPW, I mean, we're all going to represent the town, and we're looking to make decisions as as representatives of the town, and not necessarily one division mate saying one thing and another commission or group saying another. So it was upsetting that there was that large of a disagreement to me. So we took that opportunity to have a meeting. Now it was yesterday, Chuck. Yesterday. Sorry, I'm messing up my days. With the DPW, it was myself, Chuck, Jane Kinsella, Chris Cole, Mike Hannaford, and additionally, town staff, other town staff were part of it for a decent portion of the meeting, which was Julie Mincier, Dean Delios, and Bob Alashare. The main point of the discussion was, how do we solve these situations like this moving forward, and how do we better communicate and get this, get the two groups on the same page. I'm hopeful that we have steps going forward. I think, just today with the emails between Chuck and Mike Hannaford and just like, oh, let's go meet at the site and decide what we can do. I think that we've come to some further agreements. So I'm hopeful that the communication between the two groups will be better. I think part of what came out of this is Chuck is going to start having a regular meeting with Jane Kinsella about what's occurring, about what, a monthly meeting about what's going on, what projects they have, what items are both sides are coordinating on. Use that as a vehicle to keep up on things. This was one where we'd sent a letter of what we thought should be done today, and then 5 months later we heard that it was done and completed, and was totally off our radar. So I think any ways that we can improve that communication is going to help. So that's essentially what prompted, again, Anika's email to the select board. My hope is that we can improve our communication going forward. I don't think, frankly, at any point anybody should be showing up to a site and hearing from anybody that you don't know what you're doing it wrong. That's just, in my mind, inappropriate. So, but I think we've got a path forward, and I think hopefully we've got something that can foster a little bit better communication. So, go ahead, Anika.
Mike, I sent you and Chuck an Excel spreadsheet this afternoon. I only sent it to you two because I was trying to think of tools to facilitate clear communication. And I don't know if you had a chance to review it. I wanted to, maybe you want to look at it tomorrow, or maybe you were too busy. Thank you for going to that meeting. You've been spending a lot of time, I think, on a lot of these things this week. But that spreadsheet, if you think it could potentially be useful as a tool for communication, I want to let other people on conservation know that I drafted something, a form, like a tracking form.
Yeah, so Anika, I'll be honest, I didn't have a chance to look at it today. But I think ultimately it's a good idea. I think one of the takeaways that I had, well, I already felt this from DPW, but I think that they communicated to us as well. As I think we're sending each other's emails, and it's clear that neither side understands what the other side was saying in an email. And so the more that we can kind of create a clearer path, or whether it's forums or just meetings, I think could help. I don't want to make something that's so cumbersome through paperwork that it stalls the process or makes the process more difficult. But I think what we had the last 6 months wasn't working, so I'm open to ideas of what will help moving forward. So
I understand your point. I think checklists sometimes actually can make a policy more practical. I went back and looked at tree policy, and you have to spend time rereading every paragraph to see exactly what umbrella that situation falls under. And I'm a little concerned that the tree policy, as it's drafted, not that it's bad at all, but I'm a little concerned that it actually might become a communication obstacle. And another piece of paper that people point at to say, but look, it says this, So, that's just, I'm trying to avoid future cross blaming and increased communication. So, yeah, but I don't want to, I don't want to send something out to all of conservation if you haven't had a chance to look at it, Mike, as chair. So I think Chuck did look at it. I don't know if he has anything. I think he said he took an initial look at it. I don't think Chuck didn't give me any comments back.
No, I looked at it and I thought that it looked like it worked, but I thought that if we were going to present it to the DPW department and ask them if it could be filled out at each site, that we'd really want to get the input from me and Mike and then the rest of the commission, just to make sure that everyone's input was on this and practical experience was part of it. So that's good. I'm hoping this works, but I can tell you that I think that we're going to have kind of a learning curve on the policy, and as long as the two parties are able to communicate, that would be great. But that's what everyone needs. But I don't know. It just
I think it's easy to say we need to communicate more.
I think that they have a kind of a different way of getting work done and how to facilitate it, and the public input is different for the DPW department than it would be for the Conservation Commission, and I saw that.
I'm not saying just because I came up with it, we don't have to go with it. I just throw it out there as a possible tool if anybody thinks, if DPW thinks it would be effective. Just literally a place to meet, a forum.
All right, great. So we have that. I'll look at it. Mike will look at it, and then we'll probably get it on the agenda for the next meeting. Is that if Mike agrees?
Yeah. No, I think that's fine.
It seems to me a critical piece of the decision making is location of the property boundary, and so maybe if that, having the town send a surveyor out could be one step in Anika's flow chart. I think that would be a good thing to get done early on, so when we're looking at the property boundary, we actually know where it is.
That's a good point, because at the end of this process, I think if everyone knew where that property boundary was when we first went out there, that's kind of where a lot of the confusion lie. And, the Conservation Commission never wanted any part of that tree left on the stone wall. And I don't know if, I still don't know if the DPW has a policy that says they will not work beyond the stone wall, and that's why they left the tree exactly on top of the property line. That was a little bit confusing to me, but if we knew what the property line was, then when we were out there initially, we could have said, well, it wouldn't make any sense to leave it here, just cut it back to the other side, on the other side of the stone wall, so that all the trees are at least in or on the forest floor.
I apologize if I missed it. Has the property boundary been determined now? Has the surveyor been out? So when you go tomorrow, will you get to see that marking?
Yeah, so they surveyed the property, they've marked it with orange paint, and it's pretty much on the center, the very top of the stone wall. And Mike was just saying only some of the branches and the trunks of the tree were over the line. And he said that, I don't know what he said, but he said, yeah.
So they painted some marks. They painted some locations and added. So Mike sent over a plan for here's still over the property line. It wasn't a lot of work. It wasn't a lot of locations. There was a stump on the backside. There were log on the backside that was spray painted. There was something impaled in the ground. There was some other locations. What we talked about, and what Chuck is hopefully meeting with Mike tomorrow about is there a difference between, he's going to make a cut. Is there a difference between making a cut at this one location or just behind the wall? Is there a difference between a foot, and is there some cleanup that can be done that isn't going to take a lot of manpower and labor and be able to be done? So any additional work is going to be done with Mike's crews. So in some ways we're limited to what they can take and pick, and what the type of equipment that they're going out there with. So kind of working within the means of the crew that they have to do the work as well. So hopefully that's facilitated with most discussion. I think, like I said, we received a plan from Mike. We kind of sent back, here's what we'd like to consider, and let's, that's where it's set up. Like, okay, let's go out and look at those locations and see what's possible.
Yeah, so the plan came in and it was still pretty much just cutting a few inches off the big trunks of trees and picking up, as he described it, two pieces, one on one side of the wall and one side on the other side of the wall. And that really, in my opinion, I think in Mike's opinion, didn't reflect what we discussed at the meeting. So we sent him back an email and suggested those things again and reminded him that, the commission is okay if this work was feasible. And I think that prompted this meeting tomorrow. The homeowner is, he's asking the Conservation Commission about additional work. And I think what he doesn't understand is that, we don't have manpower or anything. And if it's going to be left on his property line, which is the center of the stone wall, and that's where the DPW wants to leave it, he needs to talk to them about it. And I think that's where we were originally, and I think that's where we ended up.
Thanks.
So I'm hoping we have a path forward after the meeting tomorrow, and it's somewhere close to where everybody was hoping it would end up. So. Anything else? Chuck, do we have any bills? We haven't received any sort of any updates on the enforcement orders, Perfectos, 14 Dean Road, 30 Chequesset. I know 30 Chequesset, you kind of already gave us an update, I think. Maybe that was before the meeting.
Perfectos, I did leave them a message. I saw that chain down for 2 days. I think it was last week, and I saw that it was back up again this week. They're still under enforcement order. I'll check it out in more depth, not tomorrow, but next week, and see if people are driving in there or anything like that. But Chequesset, we let them know we want to review it in the spring. So that's where that's. So that's put to bed for the winter. Pretty much Perfectos is also, they park back there.
Chuck said we're reviewing in the spring, or 14 Dean?
Chequesset and 14
okay.
Dean.
Okay. And 14 Dean. Okay. Sorry.
So, and then Perfectos, they take one of the chains down and they park 3 vehicles on the far right-hand side, pretty much in November, and then they block it off in the spring. So that was the agreement the commission made with them. So That's, if anyone sees any cars parked back there, that's why. They shouldn't be parked on the left-hand side. But the right-hand side is fine. That's all, yeah.
And then we had minutes for approval. Did people have the opportunity to take a look at the minutes? This is 10/28 and November 18th. That's what we received. Any comments or edits?
I didn't have anything.
And
Fine to me.
do I hear a motion then?
Make a motion to accept minutes of 10/28/2020.
A second.
Michael Flynn in favor?
Nika Scanlon in favor.
David Panett in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Favor. Carl Sacconi in favor.
I
All
make
right,
a motion
and
minutes of 11/18/2020.
I'll second that.
Michael Flynn in favor? Sorry.
Nika Scanlon in favor.
David Panett in favor.
Martha Moore in favor.
John Sullivan in favor.
Carl Sacconi in favor.
Okay. Any other items
Can I go back
you
to
want to talk about, Bruno?
Can I go back to old new business, Mike?
Yeah.
Because there was 4 items that were on there, and the 53 Arcadia Ave. Are we still waiting for them to finish up the work there?
I think so. Chuck?
So what had happened is they came in with a request, a certificate of compliance request,
Yep.
and a RDA, but they needed the RDA to be approved, and so they would do all the work to finish up this order of conditions,
Right.
which is 5059
Mhm.
and the RDA. So in the spring, we'll probably see that, and we'll be approving the RDA and approving the certificate of compliance for that site. So that's what the holdup is.
So the other thing is that you mentioned Small Lane, but there's on the old new business, there's a request for certificate of compliance for 18 Small and 22 Small Lane, and they gave us a planting plan, and we had said that if we had a planting plan that was approved, that we were going to approve their request for certificate of compliance.
No, at the meeting, we said that,
I don't think that's what we said, right?
And they had that was, as I recall, that there was a planting plan that was agreed upon. They were going to give a planting plan to the commission, and then that if the planting plan that they gave was acceptable to the commission, and then they went through with the planting plan, that the certificate of compliance would be granted. And I just happened, the reason why I asked that is because I drove down there, I don't know, it was last week or the week before that, and I noticed that there was, I didn't walk the line, but there are a bunch of sticks that look like they're indications of where, like plantings were planted. I just took it that that's what they were. They're like large canes that were in the ground that were adjacent and around the perimeter of the 22 Small Lane property. So, like I said, that's what I remember. What the our last, it wasn't the last meeting. It was 2 meetings ago when this last.
Yeah, so I'm actually, I just pulled up the meetings that we sent for 10/28, the minutes, and we didn't discuss closing it at all. That we just approved that the planting plans. That's kind of what I recall as well. We can go back to it.
Planting plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can go back to the YouTube discussion day for next meeting, and it sits on our agenda. They're not here this week if they did have issue that.
Well, we just didn't talk about the Chuck had said something about the thing that was in back of that, which is not really what's on the request is certificate of compliance. And then there's also the certificate of compliance for 754 Pearl Street, and we didn't talk anything about that.
So 750, yeah, some of those things are on there just because they're placeholders.
Yeah.
And we did discuss them. And so 754 Pearl Street, the applicant does not have the original certificate of compliance. And they wanted us to just make up a new certificate of compliance and sign it for her. And I think we wanted to, I think that for us to do that, we couldn't just make one up. They would have to go through the whole certificate of compliance process. She didn't want to do that. So then she found this duplicate, and we needed to find one ourselves.
Yeah.
And so with town hall lockdown and whatnot, the search through the files hasn't happened yet. As I understand it, they're not trying to sell the house or refinance or anything like that. This is just something on
to clear up the boilerplate.
But it's the truth of the matter is, if it's necessary, they can go through the certificate of compliance process, start to finish, and then we'll sign it. So,
yeah.
In essence, there is an option to use. So
yeah, so we're waiting. I think the open item there. So basically, Dave, we're leaving these on the agenda so that they don't get lost, and that we had some additional things for them to do, but there was no new items or no new updates for this meeting.
So with the people from 754, be able to just go back to the registry of deeds and get a copy of the order of conditions after the certificate of compliance.
They've gone through that process. They can't find them. I think what happened was they never recorded the certificate of compliance.
Oh boy.
The original is missing. They don't want to go through the long process, which was to start to finish, have the certificate of compliance, Form 8A, get the engineer's letter and get a survey of the site. They don't want to do that. They just want to search the archives, and if we have a copy up in our archives, then we could do a copy certificate for them and have that signed. But if we don't have it, they're back to the original. They have to start from scratch. I don't see any other way to do it. Might have some ideas on it, but right now we're just looking for either a copy or the original of this order of conditions.
Yeah, no, and Chuck, you and I talked about that. I think we brought this when this first came up. Was there's some statement that if we give a copy that we have to check off that we are certifying that this is a real copy of the certificate or something. I forget exactly what it was, but the language just made it seem like we need to find the copy in our records if we want to use an old copy and we don't have the original. But the simple process would, if they need to or want to, and what most people do is just to go through that certificate of compliance piece. So I think it's on our list of items that we need to do, but it's like I said, Chuck's time is few and far between in the office right now, and the dusty archives. Not up on his priority list when he is there. I don't know.
Can you remind me what that address is?
754 Pearl Street.
Okay, thanks.
It's on the corner of Main Street.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what I've done, not in conservation, but in other matters, I've gone to the online registry of deeds. And you can look up documents for a property.
Okay.
It's a difficult, it's not straightforward, but.
Any other items?
I was going to mention that at some point the select board will be reviewing the tree policy, and it was supposed to be on the 8th. And I just want to make a note that this board was not invited. So if people can monitor the select board's agenda, I think that it would be good to have some representation there. I know that it should be fine, but you know, we want to be a strong board. We want to be represented, and we want to have our people at meetings where things that concern us are being discussed.
No, that's a good point, Chuck. I think that's a good idea. I think ultimately this is something that we put effort into with the DPW crafting, and if they're going over it to approve it, we want to make sure we are able to have some sort of representation.
I'll let you know, but I'm
you know
sure
where the
you
next
guys... Yes, I don't know. We'd have to look at the agenda. Hold on, I can you talk for a minute. I can find it. Hopefully they've posted it.
We're good at chatter.
Good. No, I don't see it on next week's agenda at all. I heard that I thought they did say that they were going to have one next week. It's just not posted. I'll talk to or send Caitlin an email tomorrow and ask, and I should just ask to keep us informed when it goes on the agenda.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
They should be having a meeting tonight as well. But
it was last night, I think.
No, I think they had a meeting posted about last night and tonight.
Everyone posted tonight. I don't see it on the agenda.
Sometimes they have to post if they're going to be attending one of the other groups meetings and having a quorum, that they have to post it.
There's an agenda.
Oh, okay.
That they're going to talk about FY 2022 budgets.
Oh, interesting.
So, we'll see.
So for anyone that's Saturday night, by a show of hands, how many are really happy we didn't get that 6 to 10 inches? Me, yeah, that stuff was like cement. What little we did get, if we had got 10 inches of that heavy wet snow, that wouldn't have been good.
I was away this weekend, and I came back to more than I was thinking we were going to get, but just a big ice on my driveway, and it's still that way because it's too hard to get rid of.
No, I know it. No, I know that things that froze. I mean, I'm walking on it. It's so slippery. It's terrible. But shoveling it, that was bad too. And I just thought, well, if we'd ever got, they said we were going to get 6 to 10 inches. If we'd ever got 6 to 10 inches of that snow, that would have been the straw that broke the camel's back.
So we got whatever it was, 3 inches or something, but the plow still came by and then it froze.
Right.
So I got the snow blower out just because it was frozen. I did my neighbor across the street, all these things. And I'm like 30 seconds into snow blowing, and I suck up an entire bag of doggy bags that were been completely broke. The auger, everything.
So you have
that was an easy time of year to get those fixed too.
You needed to,
I got screwed anyway.
So are you saying
when you're writing for the Chronicle, they'd want to know if they were used.
I would rather if they had been because it wouldn't be broke.
So you that the people are not conforming to the no dumping signs that are down near your house?
No, actually, I think that was a huge success.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I don't think I saw one person drag a barrel or a tarp across the street.
Wow.
Seriously, I really think that made a
That's
huge.
great.
And sometimes so egregious that it was a huge difference. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
And just to let you know, the path between Hunt Street and Willow Street was completed. There might be some little cleanup work to do, but if you ever have a chance, you can go down there and park and walk. Best one so far, for sure. A lot of people volunteered.
Is there a parking area there that you can leave a car?
Yeah, I mentioned that, and there is a parking area. There's no restrictions on that parking area. There's a poorly paved road down to it, and you can pull in back on the Willow Street side. It's just at the crossing, the railroad crossing, and obviously it's done to dust, and because that's conservation land, and that's the rules for conservation land. And but you could pull down there and park. But when I said that, when Will, one of the trail members was there, they didn't feel like that was parking area. But which brings me to another point. We're getting pretty close to being awarded a grant with the Mystic River Watershed Association, who's doing a detention basin in that area, and that will include handicap parking trail that connects to the trail that was just built, and it's really supposed to be pretty nice. They want the detention for the Abajona, get some of that flood storage, and get a nice little walking trail around the constructed wetland and whatnot. There is a conceptual plan that's be sent up to the commission tomorrow just to take a look at it, so you're aware if anyone asks you. And it's me and Alex Rizicki and Ryan Purcell have been working on it. I think it's great. To me, it's we have the town forest, we have Bear Meadow, but now at this end of town, this is really nice. This is another go-to open space situation.
Good.
That trail walked from
on Willow Street.
Excuse me?
Is the parking on Willow Street or on the end of Hunt Street?
No parking. You'd have to park on the road at Hunt Street, but there's a kiosk there, which is fine. You can enter right down through there, public street. But there is off-road parking. If you see where the tracks cross Willow Street, just between the house and the tracks, if you're heading towards Austin Pep on the left-hand side, there is a paved area. It's rough, go slow. It would probably be better to park at Front Street, but
okay. Thanks.
I was going to say I walked the trail, but it was in nicer weather. It was a couple of months ago. And I know I believe they completed the bridge over the river recently. At least I saw it on the Riding Trails Facebook page, I think. And so I'm looking forward to going back.
yeah, it's all completed. Just a little cleanup. That's also where we had that gentleman clear out the stream and cut all the button bush. And it would be nice to keep an eye on that and see if invasives come in. That's too bad because it'll end up taking over that whole area.
Right.
And it'll be just like every other wetland in Massachusetts. So, which is a shame, but it wasn't there. We were doing work days and it wasn't there. It wasn't coming up at that point, but it would really be this spring that I would wonder what would happen.
All right. Any other items? Hear none. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second.
All those in favor, just raise your hand.
Right.
Have a good holiday, everybody. Stay healthy.
Yeah.
Thank you, you too.
Thanks.
We'll see you in 2021.
Good night.
See you next year.
Thank you.
Good night.